All right, welcome everybody. This is Barney Kuntze. I'm the founder and creator of the YLSS Summit. I'm also a gold leader on my way to platinum very shortly here. I hope that by the next time I give you guys this bonus coaching call at the time of the recording that we will be platinum. And aside from the point, I'm very excited to share with you tonight. We are in episode number 13, and we have a special guest tonight on our call as the bonus coaching calls that we're developing our rhythm and routine here with the weekly coaching call. So make sure that you put in the recurring appointment in your calendar. Tell your team members, friends, family members, they don't have to be in Young Living, but if they are in Young Living, then totally cool. And Tom Woloshyn is here to talk to us tonight about color therapy. Not so much just on essential oils and color therapy, but we will be discussing how essential oils work and how they are utilized by the body to heal itself, and also understand this ancient healing system that is written up on the Great Pyramid in Egypt, along with how to use color therapy with essential oils in conjunction with raindrop therapy. So, Tom, thank you so much for carving out and making time for us on this call. Welcome.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Very awesome. So, I know you have been on the YLSS Summit for both years that we've done this, and we're on our way to the third. The first one that you did in 2015 was on the Master Cleanse, and then in 2016 you did color therapy, and then what was the second presentation in 2016? I have to remind myself. It was on VitaFlex.
It was on VitaFlex. Yes, it was.
Yeah. So maybe some of that might slip in here, but we really want to focus on color therapy tonight. So what I'd love for you to do is, just for those of the everybody listening now, live and in the future, that don't know Tom Woloshyn and who is this guy. I know I've asked myself that question one point in time when I first met you. I'd love for you to just explain to people, just in a brief synopsis, who you are, your experience with Young Living, and how you kind of came to the work that you're doing now.
Well, it was back in 1979 I was introduced to the book Healing for the Age of Enlightenment by Stanley Burroughs. And in the book there's the Master Cleanse or Master Cleanser Diet, color therapy, and VitaFlex. And probably many of you know that Gary Young was also introduced to Stanley Burroughs' work. And he, a few years earlier, went on the Master Cleanse for 256 days in a row, and then basically got up and started to walk, using, I think, a cane, after his accident. And that was his first sort of endeavor into the, or, sort of step into the alternative healthcare field. Myself, and I should also say Gary he was doing it to starve himself to death. And myself, I did the cleanse to prove it wouldn't work. And in this book, as I said, there was information on color therapy, which is the shining or application of light on the body for healing. And because I have some background in chemistry and physics, it seemed really quite absurd that you could just shine light on your body and heal yourself. And so I didn't give it much thought. And then it was some months later, that I finally went on the cleanse. And doing the cleanse quite literally changed my life. And it was about 7 or 8 months later, I took a training in Stanley Burroughs' work, and that included the VitaFlex and the color therapy. And the color therapy was, as I began to realize, is not a kind of an airy-fairy or very etheric sort of thing as many people perceive it, but it's all based on the laws of chemistry and physics. There's actually a branch of science called spectroscopy, which is a study of light and how it interacts in the world, and in not just the world, but in the universe particularly. And what Einstein said is, and I just actually saw this in a book recently, was matter is just frozen light. And it's interesting because in my last talk, I think I described, and I have to some people before, that essential oils are basically liquid light. So there's 3 or actually 4 states of matter. And there's solid, liquid, gas, and then there's plasma. But if something goes from solid to liquid to gas, it's just a matter of heat or temperature that differentiates one from the other to the other. When we start talking about energy and matter being interchangeable, as Einstein said, like frozen energy is just matter, and we have liquids, and they're not frozen; they're less less frozen. They're more mobile, and as I say, essential oils are just liquid light, and it was really kind of I went, well, of course, yes, because plants use light through photosynthesis to take the sun's energy and then takes carbon dioxide out of the air and water out of the ground, and it has a chemical factory in those leaves, and those in the leaves through photosynthesis, those molecules of water and carbon dioxide, or H2O and carbon dioxide, are split apart. They're then reassembled in new and very interesting ways, and they create essential oils that way, and also sugars and the organic matter that we find in the world. It's all created through light, and because we eat to live, we're just absorbing that light through solid matter, in a sense, or liquids as well. And what happens is our body digests or breaks down the foods that we've eaten. It's a reverse process that the plant does. So we disassemble the molecules, and the molecules then release light or energy. But we actually release two types of light, one of them being infrared, which you can see or feel as heat. But there's, I think they're called biophotons, and they're small bits of light, I'm not sure how to describe this, that our body will release. And there are people who will see, if they see auras or energy fields, can actually see our body radiating light. In fact, Stanley Burroughs never lost the ability to see these energy fields, because as I've been told and learned, all children see these fields, but because nobody explains to them what they are or how they work, they usually lose that ability by about age 3 or 4. And that's why when you see young children drawing people, they'll draw people with crayons with very specific colors. And those colors generally relate to their energy field. And of course, those colors will give back information as to kind of the health of that individual, their emotional state, any number of things, if you know how to interpret that. So anyways, with my background in chemistry and physics, everything that I learned in the color therapy was totally consistent with Einstein's theory of relativity, E equals mc squared, quantum mechanics. All of that is entirely consistent. And so it's a really quite an exciting field. And then when when you're using essential oils, as you know, Barney, they're amazing at what they can do in just a matter of seconds. And that's happening because when you put that oil on your skin, the crossover time from the skin to the bloodstream is about 1 to 3 seconds. And there could be anywhere from 50 to 75% or more of that oil in your bloodstream. And then it metabolizes. And that metabolic change is when, or chemical change, I should say, that creates metabolism, is instead of a sugar burning in your body, the essential oil burns with oxygen, and it releases light. And it's that light that then affects the health of your body, because our body has got in our blood a compound called hemoglobin, and that hemoglobin is almost identical to the molecule chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is that organic compound that creates photosynthesis, or is used in photosynthesis, except that the central atom in blood is iron, and the central atom in chlorophyll is magnesium. So, we're starting to see how we have, similarities, in terms of these molecules, which would mean we should be able to then have similar abilities to maybe work with light in a way that many people don't appreciate. But there's, I'm just seeing, I see research about using light to treat all sorts of things now, and it's becoming kind of a new science. So,
Yeah.
did you have something you wanted to
Yeah.
say there? I
Yeah.
kind of wandered on there, not
Yeah,
too.
no. That's good. I like when you do that for sure, and I'm almost certain that everybody else does too.
Hmm.
I think what's interesting, but what you just said was that we, that we do the way that we consume when we have food, and break down the food, and then it releases light, which gives us energy in the body. That the plants do that in reverse, but then how the oils work, if I got that correctly, but then how so the lights take light and then photosynthesize that with water and then make it into molecules that then go into the oil that when distilled or extracted or pressed from the plant or the substance, we then are able to utilize that as a form of cellular nutrition, which really, when you think about it, at least from my perspective anyways, I've always been constantly amazed but never surprised at the power of the oils. And we all know that there's certain things that we can and can't say now due to, or not just now, but just with being in compliance for the FDA and Health Canada to make sure it's whatever market we're in. But I've always been constantly amazed and surprised at how amazing the oils will affect people in different ways, but very simple and profound ways. And even though I don't really need, my green type personality is not very high. I'm definitely a red, blue, yellow, and green, if you're familiar with the personality colors. And I say this in my long-winded response to what you just said there, Tom, is that there's been a part of me that's been really curious about, well, how does it really work? There's the other side of my brain where I'm like, I don't really care. It works. I know it works. I use the oils. I try them with people and random people in the airports, or just when I'm sharing the oils with people and see that look on their face when they breathe in the peppermint or they put the lavender on their skin and they smell it. And it's always intrigued me to understand it at a little bit of a deeper level without getting um, having it to be confusing or perplexing, but just to understand the basics of how simple yet profound it is with how the oils work in our bodies.
Okay, well, as these in the chemistry of the oils, like an essential oil can have 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 or more organic compounds, and these are different molecules that have different numbers of carbons or hydrogens, oxygen, sometimes nitrogen, but they're basically hydrocarbons. And there's billions, I guess, of ways that they can, or trillions of ways probably that they can assemble themselves. And each molecule has a specific shape, a specific mass, and specific properties in which it will turn into a gas or solidify with temperature or react to light. It's, and on and on and on. So these molecules are made by the plant, as I said, disassembling oxygen, or not oxygen, but H2O, water, and carbon dioxide. And then when it reassembles them, it requires energy to sort of put these bonds together, between, say, a carbon and a carbon, or carbon and an oxygen, or carbon and a hydrogen. There's a certain amount of energy that's locked in there, and it's a quantum energy. It's like a very specific amount. So each molecule, depending on its bonds and the number that it has, and that in between what molecules, will sort of determine what energy it has bound up in that molecule. And then when you metabolize it or burn it, like our body, metabolizes sugar and breaks down fats and proteins and stuff to, again, convert them into sugar. As this is being metabolized and those bonds break, the energy that was put into them to make that molecule is released, and that energy is light. And so you have to go, well, so it's just light. What does light do? Well, I believe that, and they haven't really been detected, but I've read that it's believed they're there, that every cell in the body has receptors for light. And so light is kind of like a password. And when you get a specific color onto a cell, it will tell that cell to respond or react in a certain way. And it's pretty simple. And if, say, for example, you have a fever or you're hot or you have an infection, by shining a cool color, something that calms the body or reverses heat in a sense by putting cool on it. It's like if you had a fire, you put water on it. Well, when you have a hot condition, you shine a cool color, and it cools that particular area. In fact, we have a little baby now that's about how old is she? 5, 6 weeks old, and she had a bit of a rash, or even right from birth, and it was going on for a few weeks. And my wife Leslie said, we should, we need to do something about it. Maybe we should take her to the naturopath. And I said, why? let's just, I said, let's just put her under the color lamp. Well, we put her under turquoise, which is a cooling color, and within like a half an hour, it had changed, quite significantly. And that was just shining the light onto the baby while she was sleeping. Now,
Awesome.
these colors, they also, for example, when we put heat to something, which is a type of light, it's a light we don't see but we feel, will change things. It cooks things. That alters things. Well, light, the visible light we see, or the colors, can do very much the same thing. And it's, as I said, it hasn't been widely understood or even researched. I mean, more and more in the last few years, I'm seeing, various, so in color therapy, you use the color violet to treat jaundice. I talked about this the last time. So because violet is the exact opposite color to yellow in color therapy. And generally within a day or so of doing, various applications of the color therapy, the jaundice will be gone. Well, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was watching Sunday Morning. And guess what they're showing? This is a lamp that they are saving thousands and thousands of lives or babies in the third world. And it's a light that the baby lays on a tray. That light shines from underneath their body and from a light over top of their body, and they just keep them minimally dressed, and they shine more or less indigo but blue light on these babies, and within, I think, just a day or 2 or 3, their jaundice is gone. I mean, and it's as if they've just discovered essential oils for, people think oils are just discovered. No, they've been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And color therapy, as I say, is been around. And here they're using these lamps. I was thinking I need to probably go back to that show, write to those people and say, do you want to get rid of malaria? Shine yellow on the babies. Do you want to get rid of infections? Shine turquoise. Do you want to get rid of, there's all of these things that you see, they've just applied it to just one specific thing. And it's kind of like, little do they know, there's 1,000 different things they could use this for. One of the, I was mentioning to you earlier, I was just, I was in Missouri and doing a workshop there, and someone gave me a book and to read, because I was doing a lecture on parasites. And I've said, and I didn't write this in my book because I thought it would sound too bizarre, but I believe that parasites run the planet. And I tell people this once in a while, and they go, that sounds really crazy. Well, there's this book called This Is Your Brain on Parasites, and it's about all the recent research, like medical research, scientific research into parasites. Parasites, they believe, may even affect how you vote, believe it or not. And there is a parasite that gets in your brain, and most people have it now, and it makes you, it tends to make you more riskier behavior. And what they find, that people who are in car crashes and die are far more prevalent to have this parasite in their brain than people who aren't killed. This parasite comes from, it's in a cat, and how it sort of all started, this came out some years ago about this parasite. And if rats get infected by it, by this parasite. What this rat will do is run to a cat to be killed and eaten. And why is that? Well, that parasite can only reproduce itself in the gut of a cat. So it makes the rats do bizarre behavior. It makes them go out and find a rat so they can be killed. And when at first, the guy who first, put this out, people just kind of laughed at this and said, well, that's absurd. Why would a cat, they control all sorts of behaviors in all types of animals and insects. They're now realizing it's quite a new and exciting branch of science. And as I say, in medicine, as I say, the book is called Your Brain on Parasites. Now the thing is, they don't know how to kill these parasites. Well, in color therapy, the color that kills parasites and drives them out of your body is yellow. And if you've ever seen a bug away light, a light to force bugs away, it's yellow. And if you use a zapper, which is a light to attract bugs so that they get electrocuted or zapped, it's violet and into the ultraviolet because they're attracted to that. So here is a means that, well over, I think she said it's well over 50% of the population has this one. I think it's called toxoplasmoso or something along this lines. I borrowed it from somebody. I haven't been able to pick it up yet. But this was just one example, and I had read about 100 pages into the book, and there were several examples of various parasites that run whole ecosystems. And when I was writing my book and wrote a chapter on parasites, and the person that was helping me, I said, we're gonna do some research on parasites, because I'm gonna start writing that chapter tomorrow. Well, that night was on a webinar listening to Gabriel Cousins. He's a doctor, and he's kind of very alternative and eats raw. And that night he was talking about parasites, and he said, and she reported to me, he said, I wonder what parasite runs the Middle East. And I very much believe that parasites are running the world as we know it, which is kind of scary. And, the thing is that until people wake up to this and actually see this as a viable condition that they may have, there isn't much going to be done about it. And as I say, medically, I'm planning to contact the author of this book, because there was, as far as I could read, there was no options on how to reverse these conditions. So color therapy is one way. Now, I don't know if essential oils, if you could use them for that, but we'd have to talk to Gary.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that'd be interesting if we could get the chance to ask them. I'm sure some people listening here are probably freaked out and thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm 50%, that means there's 5 out of 10 people have one. And I know when I say that to clients at the gym, everybody has parasites. They're like, oh, they kind of scrunch their nose up and make a weird look on their face. And the thing is that it drives how we eat and can have effects on thoughts and our bodies in general. And I think that the nice thing to know is, there's an old saying is, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, which might not sound very pleasant, but when you're empowered with some of this stuff to know, now we can see even more of the reasons why the essential oils are great to help support our body's health and combat the parasites. Even more of the reasons maybe why to look at more the products that Young Living has to help keep our bodies nice and clean and healthy, like Parafree.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that we may be using these oils, and they may already be working to treat various things that we're unaware of, and maybe some of these parasites that get into your brain. I don't know. I'd have to talk to Gary, because I would think he would be very interested in this information, because it's really quite startling. I've known a lot of this stuff for years, but as I was reading this book, because she had done. There's been so much research done, but it isn't widely, disseminated to the common person, and people in the medical field and people into doing research in that area, of course, would have more of a handle on that because of receiving papers and seeing, getting updates on what's going on. But for the average person, it's we're kind of left somewhat in the dark, and as you said, if we're you're using Young Living, some of these oils actually may be. I know certain compounds. I don't know if you know, Barney, but like this, what are called sesquiterpenes, are the compounds that go. You probably know that, yeah. They go from they pass through the blood-brain barrier and go right into the brain.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if they would be necessarily anti-parasitic, but I don't see why they wouldn't have that ability. So this is really something exciting to look into, because if this is one of the things that actually will work, then because as I said, I don't think medically they know how to treat it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that just being empowered with it to look at this. So you're talking about the lamp, and the color therapy. How can we use the oil? Like, start looking at color therapy. I've had people ask me when first getting introduced, well, what do all the colors mean on the oils? And then, so maybe you could address that. That was a question that came up about what the colors, what the labels mean on the oil bottles, but then also just how we can utilize color therapy in general for our health and well-being, even in the clothes that we wear, and how we can take note of the effects of that in our daily life.
Yeah. As far as the labels on the bottle and their relationship to their color energetically, there's some of them I think will match up, but that may be more coincidental. For example, in color therapy, the color purple is the color that is good for pain, any sort of pain. And when I was showing somebody who could see energy fields and they were looking at, I showed them balsam fir. I said, "What color do you see?" And first color she said was purple. And I said, "Well, that's really consistent with what I know, because purple is the color for pain, and that's what I've used it for. I'm not saying that's what it does do. I'm just saying that's what I have used it for." And then but the bottle for balsam fir is green, and that would be partly probably because it's a tree and stuff, like, some of those, colors were used just not necessarily in, some maybe intuitively, but some you'd think, oh, because it's a tree, let's use green or something else. And then I think also, like, some of the hot or the caustic oils, you'll generally see those often in hot colors as well, like through red, yellow, orange, that kind of stuff, and variations on that lemon as well. But it's, as you were saying, it's not just the oils or using the lamp. The colors you wear, what you're wearing, and as the light shines through your clothing and then onto your skin, will have an effect. And if you don't really appreciate that, say if you have, like, right now I'm wearing an orange shirt. If I lift my my neck up and put my head inside my shirt, I'm all orange inside, and that's one way you're then doing color. And it's a very simple way. It's not the same as doing color therapy, shining colored light on your body, but it does have an effect. And I've had people say they've noticed that people act differently by the different colors they wear. And so if you want to feel more energetic, if you're going to the gym, like I wear a bright yellow T-shirt and then a kind of gold-colored pants. They're not actually gold, more of a brown, but they're Lululemon, and my kids got them for me. And then I have another pair that are green pair of pants, and I'll often wear green with that. And green is your color of balance, so it's good for just about anything and everything. But I tend to wear more the hot colors, or or my hot outfit, because it tends to be like the color yellow is the most activating or invigorating of all the colors of the rainbow. And so if you say experience a lot of tension or anxiety, you would then tend to work towards blue or turquoise or indigo or purple or something like that. Those cooler colors that tend to calm you. Like if somebody suffered from migraines, I would suggest they wear purple more often, because purple is the color that you would use for that in color therapy. So there's then also people will do things where they will put water in a glass bottle, and then you can take their color lamp and shine a specific color onto that water, and it in a sense charges that water so that it's been infused in a sense with the frequency that you've been shining onto it. So you could shine orange onto your water and then drink orange water, and that will have a specific effect. Orange is the color, on the emotional level, a color of success. It also helps for women to produce breast milk if they're nursing. Of course, that won't affect a man because he doesn't have breast to nurse, so that was not an issue. But it also is the color of elimination. If you're constipated, the color orange helps with elimination. So there's like all of these various ways. And of course, if you're using a color lamp, you just very simply turn the color lamp on, put in the filter that you want or filters, and then shine it onto your body. And when I say onto your body, primarily you want to get it onto as much of your skin as possible, which is to say you don't want to be dressed in clothes while you're doing, or not a lot of clothes, just so that you get sort of maximum exposure of the light onto your body.
Yeah, that's cool, Tom. I was going to ask you maybe what you could do now as you've been talking and going through some of this stuff. So we have a question from Sandra about asking if you have a book that they can buy to use the color to color in oil is what she put, but I would presume that just basically learn more about the color. So do you have a book on color therapy, or is it, I know you talked about this was your presentation in the YLSS Summit, so all the VIP members will have access to that. But do you have a book or anything else as a resource that people could utilize?
Well, I have in my book, The Complete Master Cleanse, I do have a chapter on color, but it doesn't go, it sort of explains how color works and gets into, again, about how light works in the body, explaining it sort of, from a scientific perspective. How to do color therapy is using Stanley Burroughs' book, Healing for the Age of Enlightenment. And that it can be found, you can on Amazon, but you can download the book from a website, and I can give you that website. It's realrawfood.com, and it's you then click on the articles tab, and then scroll to H, and I think that's Healing for the Age of Enlightenment. That was very good.
Yeah.
Right there. So
perfect.
So you can download that. You can do it as a PDF on your computer. You can then print it. It's in large type, so it you use the book. I think is, how long is it? 200 pages. So, but you can just take that chapter and download that and read further. But I keep thinking and talking about I have to write a book and go into sort of a lot more detail on color and how and why it works, and then doing applying that to using the color therapy and then also with the oils, because as I say, every oil has its own unique fingerprint of color or light. And when you like, I'll give a good example of this, as I always like to talk about. I've never told. I don't think I told you the story. This is, well, that's something else. But I'm going to get back to, the light and the bottle, like abundance, for example.
Yeah.
In color therapy, if you can see energetically, abundance is a combination of reds, oranges, and yellows. Well, in color therapy, red is the color of an aphrodisiac. It's a sexual stimulant. It's also a very good color for sales. It's a color for vitality. It's very motivating. The color orange is the color of success, and yellow is the color of confidence. Also the most invigorating of the colors is yellow. And so when you put abundance on, and as your body metabolizes that oil, those frequencies are released in your body. And that's kind of, how that works. I wanted to just, I don't know if I ever told you this story, Barney, and I know I didn't use it in the last one, but I tell this story in my workshops quite frequently because it's such a moving story.
Yeah.
About 1981 or 82, this woman showed up at my door, and I still to this day don't know how she got there. And she had a young child about 8 months old, and it had some issues with its vision. And I looked at this baby, and it had one eye that was paralyzed, and it was paralyzed looking over the bridge of its nose. And just for argument's sake, I can't remember, but say it was I think it was the right eye, paralyzed. And the left eye was totally wacky. It was spinning wildly and very fast. It was spinning, going round and round and round and round and round. And I looked at this child and I said, "What's the problem here? What's going on?" And she said, "Well, I'm here because somebody gave me your name and suggested that you might be able to help me." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I probably can." And I said, "Well, one of the things you might want to do is," I talked about the lemonade diet. She said, "That sounds too crazy for a child. I would not put my child on the master cleanse." So I said, "Well, there's color therapy." And I said, "Color therapy is a shining or application of light on the body." And she kind of thought, "Well, that sounds really kooky as well." I said, "Well, tell me about your child." I said, "How did this all happen?" Well, she said, "When I was in labor, I was in labor for about 24 hours, and I was pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and I couldn't deliver. So they finally did a cesarean. And what they found out was that my pelvis had not opened up. The birth canal had not opened up, which is supposed to, with a few months before you're going to delivery, it starts to stretch and open up, and so the baby can pass through the birth canal. But if it doesn't open up, it gets stuck. So for 24 hours, she was pushing this baby's head into a space that was too small. And she said when the baby was born, its right eye was paralyzed. And the doctor saw it and said, "Well, let's just leave it and just give it some time and see what happens." Well, after 2 or 3 months, that eye was still paralyzed. So they said, okay, so in their wisdom, they decided what we're going to do is put a patch over the good eye and force the paralyzed eye to start to move. Well, they left it on for 3 weeks, and the eye did not change. And when they took off the patch over the good eye, it was now completely spinning because the brain was telling the paralyzed eye to move, to move, to move, to move. And because that eye didn't have a frame of reference, it was in the dark, in the complete dark, and didn't know what it was doing, it was just started to spin wildly. So now she's got a child that has a frozen eye, a paralyzed eye, and one that's completely spinning randomly. And it was, quite a scene to see. It's very, kind of like, what do you do with this? So I said, let's think about this. I said, the baby's head was pushed into a space too small. What's happened is the nerve to that eye has been pinched, and it's, that nerve is no longer functioning properly. In color therapy, the color yellow regenerates nerve tissue or nerve damage. So I said, you could start to do this. And I said, one other thing you can do is I said, in the work that I do, one of the things I do is head reshaping, where you can squeeze the head to reshape the skull. And I looked at the baby's head, and it was very subtle, but it was a little misshapen. So I said, I want you to start squeezing the baby's head every day this way. Whether she did or not, I don't know. But I did a little bit of work on that baby's head, and I did a little bit of squeezing. And then I said, what we've got to, you have to start doing is to use the color lamp. And she was, oh, I don't know, it sounds so weird, and I don't know, my husband's going to think. And I said, hey, I said, you did everything the doctors told you, and you went from bad to worse. I said, do you think that you can hurt your baby by just shining a colored light on it? And she said, well, no. I said, well, then why wouldn't you try it? She said, okay, I will give it a shot. So that was a Friday afternoon, and no, Friday morning, and Friday afternoon I had some friends come into town that were doing a training or a workshop, and I had organized this. And it was about 5 o'clock, and we were just going out the door, and the phone rang, and I answered the phone, and it was this woman who had bought the color lamp, and she said, my husband just came home and he wants his money back. He doesn't want this lamp. He doesn't want to use this. And I went, okay. I said, I'm just going out the door at this moment, and I'm going to be away all weekend. If you bring the lamp back on Monday, I'll refund your money. I said, would you do me one favor? And she said, what? I said, would you just use it until you bring it on Monday? And she said, sure. So I do my workshop Monday morning. I stay at home I decide I'm going to stay home all morning so that I can catch her at my home and give her the money back. Well, Monday morning goes by, Monday afternoon goes by, Tuesday goes by, Wednesday goes by, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 2 weeks go by, and she shows up on the Monday morning. And she shows me the baby. The frozen eye is now working and moving, and the eye that's all wonky is now probably moving about half the speed it was. She said, I'm here because I would like to buy 2 more of your books. And then I never saw her again. But, I mean, it was just that simple. Nothing else had worked. She'd only, as I said, gone from bad to worse. And just by shining colored light onto her child, there was a change. And that's a story I tell fairly often about, something that's that simple, but can be that effective. And it, again, that really ties into, essential oils. They are so simple. It's not complicated, this stuff. You basically just put them on and let them work. Or with essential oils, with color therapy, you just turn the light on and put it, shine it onto your body. And you mentioned, about raindrop. There are many people who do raindrop and do color therapy at the same time. So while you're getting your session, in fact, I had a client in a couple of days ago, and she was complaining of depression. And so I was doing a raindrop on her and put her under the color yellow. And as I said, that's, it's very uplifting, very quickly shifts people's sort of thoughts and things about the way they're thinking and feeling. And as I say, it's another example in the workshop that I had conducted. One of the women said that she took the lamp home, and her grandson was over, and he said, "What is that?" And she said, "Well, that's a color lamp for doing shining colored light on you." And he said, "Well, how does it work?" And she said, "Well, you just turn the color on and the lamp on and put a filter in there, and you stand in front of it or sit in front of it." And she put on violet, and violet is the most calming or depressing of all of the colors. Not that it makes you depressed, but it's a depressant, so that if you all overactive functions in the body are slowed down. And she said, after about a minute, he started yawning and stretching, and he said, "Grandma, I can't stay here anymore. It's making me sleepy. I don't want to go to sleep." And so she was just kind of herself was astounded by how simple that was and how quickly it affected him. She said, like, it was quite literally like a minute. So that's a little testimonial there.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say as well as you've been talking that I haven't purchased mine light yet, but we've been talking about it. I've been really taking to heart. So I would like to get one. And somebody just asked where they can get one, and we'll pull up your website in a second so people can check it out. But I was going to say that one thing I've been taking to heart is since well, just applying that you suggested for me was when we were in the Canadian convention in August 2016 in Calgary, that there was I don't know, some at some point it came up in the discussion about color, being conscious of the color that you're wearing, not overthinking it, but just being conscious of what color. And I was always tend to be attracted to, or I would just always tend to wear like black shorts or shirts or dark gray, and really nothing of great color. Like I wouldn't wear like really flashy stuff, and mainly just because the last I worked in a tool and die shop, and we used to wear just black or dark gray clothing. And growing up on a farm, you really are not overly uh, interested in well, you just basically put on whatever, like work clothes, like whether they're jeans and then like a plaid shirt or just a regular plain shirt. And then in the gym, we would wear a lot of black or maybe sometimes white clothing. And I've been noticing that as I like today, I had an orange shirt on, and it's funny how you don't always notice those little things, but I have been paying more attention to that and just kind of
Hmm.
know as though they're wearing an orange shirt. I wear a red shirt. I wear a blue shirt. I have my wife bought me a pink one. I know that's not really a color, but I don't think it is. And so just basically just doing that. And I've noticed that, if people listen to this and they're like, well, oh my gosh, I have the oils and this is cool, but I don't have a color lamp yet. You can start applying color therapy in your life, if I'm not mistaken, Tom, by the clothes that you wear and just being sensitive, even the paint that's in your house or colors that you have on wall hangings or pictures in your house that all affect us, right?
Well, I don't know if I've told you about my house
No,
and how it's painted.
no.
The living room is painted lemon, that like which is that people refer to as lime, that bright lime color, and it's really invigorating. It's a great color to be in. And then the hallway is blue. Um, my office used to be orange, but it's I had to move out of that room, and one of our daughters is in that room, and I moved into the blue room, my therapy room, for my office. And so the one bedroom is blue. The other one, my office, was orange. The kitchen is yellow, primarily yellow and orange. Yellow is the color for digestion. It all helps you to digest food. It stimulates the appetite. My bathroom is orange, and the bathroom is orange because that's the color for elimination. And if you're in a bathroom, that's what you're there for. So, and it's also the color of success. So that's I, you know, if any of you have seen me at convention,
Yeah.
I've had people, just who have said, look for the brightest dressed man in the convention and go up to him, and that's Tom Woloshyn. And I've had many people who said that you're an easy find.
Yeah, it's between you and Jeffrey Lewis usually. With he's wearing the Hawaiian shirts, and then you've got the multicolored shirts. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's what's really interesting, just when looking at it and applying it to in our lives and utilizing the oils. I know that there's times when I'll like abundance. I've been using abundance a lot because I've been the seeds that I've been planting, literally and metaphorically, are coming to harvest. And there's some really exciting things happening for us in our team and our business and organization. And I've been really using abundance. And even though the oil is red, it's funny that when I inhale it and really smell it, I get like this mixed. I see almost more orange than I do red. Even though the label of it
Hmm.
is red, but I've been really enjoying that and putting it in the diffuser. And so then there's different things when people can think of if they need to really cool and calm down. I was wondering if maybe you could share that piece that you and I talked about with my wife. She was getting really her first trimester. She's pregnant. I was going to say we're pregnant, but she's pregnant with baby number 3. And
Oh, is she?
yes, Yeah, she's number 3 is on the way. And I remember we were talking about that she was feeling a little nauseous and getting really, she just was really feeling really, really nauseous, and like the first trimester was really hard on her. And there was, you had recommended, it was German chamomile and jasmine, I think, and or common sense was the other oil, and then you had said just to envision yellow, and then to breathe in the oil, or breathe in the oil, one of the oils that we had, and then have her envision yellow. Do you remember that conversation?
Not exactly, but I remember talking, and I'm sure I would have. I remember saying for sure Roman chamomile. All the other oils I
Oh,
don't
right.
necessarily remember.
Okay. So yeah, it was Roman chamomile, and then you had said just envision, or like, close your eyes and then picture yellow, and then I think the affirmation was all is well in my world, or something like that, and it worked
Yeah.
extremely well for her.
Oh, yeah. When you get the right oil and the right sort of emotional thing. Like I'm fairly certain, but I don't know. I would think that Roman chamomile is the color yellow energetically. Um, uh, I probably told the story, and I'll tell this one again. Then where I was we were at a level 2 training, and there's a lot of emotional stuff goes on. People are releasing a lot of emotions, and there was the day was over, and everybody was leaving, and there was one woman that was vomiting and vomiting, and there were about 5 or 6 people there, and they had one. There's one or two big kits there, and they're throwing all of these oils on to this woman, putting one and another and she just keeps vomiting and vomiting. And I walked by and I said, Roman chamomile, and they kind of looked at me, and I said, put Roman chamomile on. They go, why would you? I said, put Roman chamomile. Finally, they opened up, the Roman chamomile, and they put it on her, and literally within like a second almost of putting it on, she said, I'm done, and she'd stop vomiting just that quickly. And everybody looked at me and they said,
Oh,
how did you know? And I said, well, when people are vomiting, that's rejection of the new. It's fear. They're not wanting to see something or to look at something. They don't want to approach something. And the reason why it's called Roman chamomile is that the early Romans wore it before they went to war. And what Roman chamomile does is gives confidence and courage. So that if you're going, to fight the barbarians, and defend yourself, you're fighting for your life, basically. Wouldn't you want to be in the most powerful position, feeling the bravest, the most confident, or would you rather be sort of frightened and ready to run? Well, of course not. So that's
yeah,
basically, why that worked. And as I said, like she stopped vomiting with, it was just literally seconds, or not seconds. It was just like a second, I should say, that
yeah.
she stopped.
It was pretty. Either way, it
So
was pretty quick, and
yes, it was.
and yeah, and so I think that I can be a little presumptuous at this point and think that, and suggest that people that are listening to this, you and our conversation with live or in the future, that okay, well then how do I know? Like, how can I kind of tap into Tom's brain, or more so, how can I utilize this information in my day to day living? And I think that maybe you can give some final tips as we kind of close things off here. But I would suggest that really just to continue to keep using the oils, studying, reading, learning, and practice through application, and you'll learn and pick up all the little tips and tricks as you go, because it's not something where you just read a 10-page document and now you've downloaded everything you're going to need to know about the oils, and you can go on your merry way. And even if that was the case, I'm sure some of us wouldn't be fully satisfied with just that. But do you have some final tips for everybody listening, to just some uh, easy ways that they can integrate the everything that we learned about and talked about tonight with considering color therapy and essential oils?
Um, yeah, you may try things, a little, try to be intuitive, trying a bottle, or think of a color that, or if you read Stanley Burroughs' book and you kind of understand what color you use, you can visualize that color and then reach for a bottle intuitively, what you might want to put on and see if that works. And if that doesn't work, it won't hurt you, of course. Then go to the next one that you feel. I mean, what I've learned is that if you put the first oil on and it doesn't work, try another one. Like, don't give up. You keep, you just keep looking until you find the right oil for the right condition.
Right.
So that's, one thing. The other thing I might suggest is reading reading Louise Hay's book as well as Stanley Burroughs' book. The Louise Hay book is on the various emotions and feelings and how they, relate to the health of our body, etc. And so, that's a great book to, if you want to start sort of connecting oils to, emotional states and how to shift those and stuff. And what, like, for example, stubbornness, no, I'm going to talk about the jaw. Jaw is anger and revenge, kind of like I want to kill. And there's a really good oil for forgiveness for that, so that you can start to let that hate or that rage or that whatever that is, you let that go. And forgiveness, will help to shift that. And even before you get to that, you might want to put on release. So you let go of your hate and then go to the next step, which is forgiveness, because you can't really forgive somebody if you still hate them.
Right.
So the idea is to shift out of, move from one, sort of one state to the next, and with anger and revenge, the first step is to know you're angry, and then the second step is to express that, to get it out, so you're no longer carrying around that hate. And then forgiveness is, I want to make clear, is not for anybody else but for yourself. Because when we have revenge, it's kind of like, revenge is like eating poison hoping somebody else gets sick. If you eat it yourself, that's not going to make somebody else sick. That only makes yourself sick. So and so you want to shift that by then letting go of those emotions and feelings and going to a higher state.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay.
So that was good. So the book then you were referring to, the one that they can get for free to learn a little bit more, for those who want to dig a little deeper, they can just go to realrawfood.com, go to articles, and then I was able to find it very quickly. Just go to H and then go to healing for the age of enlightenment. And then also on your website, people were messaging me and asking me where they can get this color lamp that you're talking about. And your website is vitagem.com. And so there will be some information that's up there, and they can see where they can purchase. It's called the Vitalite, if I'm not mistaken. It's this one right here. And basically just click on Vitalite, and then you can go in there and you can read a little bit more about it, and you can order it. And then there's the color filters that they will purchase, or that you can purchase as well, right? So basically
it comes with a lamp. The lamp, you get everything that you need with the lamp except the books. You get the filters, the bulb, and the lamp.
Okay, perfect. Good. Yeah, and then the Master Cleanse. So the book about the Master Cleanse, that they can see that on your website. And I actually, so those of you who are in with the YLSS Summit, you're one of our VIP members, and meaning that you purchased the digital downloads or the flash drive, you can go in and listen to Tom's Master Cleanse. And if you're not yet a member or in the VIP members area, you can now do so. We have an option where we've made available where you can actually have access to all of our past trainings. Right now, there's 147 of them, including all of Tom's, the complete guide to the Master Cleanse, and then color therapy, and then VitaFlex. So you can listen to all three of his presentations. And we're doing this. We're going to be focusing more on this now moving forward, where we're going to be giving you guys access for a monthly membership, like a subscription. And right now it's just for less than $1 a day. So it's about $29 a month. And you have access to everything. And then when we release everything in 2017, you'll get access to that as well. And it's a lot easier in the pocketbook, allows you to learn as you go. You get access to these calls. and listen to some cool presentations, presenters like Tom, and to dig a little deeper into the presentation that you were able to do for us, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anything else you want to let people know about the website, or just for right now, just that they can go there and browse around, look at the book, and get the light?
If you know, you might put up my phone number. If people have any questions, they can call me. They just need to know I'm on the West Coast, so don't call me at 9 in the morning if you live on the East Coast, because it's 6 in the morning here and my phone rings and it will wake me up. So I'm on the West Coast Pacific time, and if they want to call me after 9 Pacific time, and if I'm home, I'll answer, and if I'm not, leave a message, and I'll call you back when I have time.
That's awesome, Tom. Thank you so much, and thank you for everybody who joined in with us live. And if you're listening to this as a recording in the future, then please feel free to share this. It's more than likely on our YouTube channel, or you're listening to this in one of our podcast outlets. But thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Thank you, Tom, for investing your time. And everybody have a great night, great day, and whatever you do, and just keep smiling.
Thank you very much, Barney. It was great. Great talking to you.
You're welcome.